"Indeed?" Rutledge turned to stare at him. "Who went before me?" "Inspector Barrington. He had a heart attack the day after he arrived. Dead." Rutledge stopped short. I hadn't heard. He'd known Barrington from before the war. Older, quiet, and lately often out of breath, as if he'd been running and hadn't quite caught it again. "There's a wife," he said to Gibson, "and children, as I remember. Grown, I think." "That's right. We've taken up a collection for them. Inspector Barrington was speaking only last month about retiring. He said it was time." Rutledge reached into his pocket and handed Gibson some notes. "Add that for me. I'm sorry. He was a good man. Steady." "He was that." "Thank you, sir. I'll see the family gets this. Funeral is next week, I'm told, if you're back in time." "Yes, leave the information on my desk. I'd like to be there." They parted company at the head of the stairs, Gibson returning to his desk, and Rutledge running lightly down the steps and out the door. His motor car was not far away, and as he walked briskly toward it, he swore under his breath. He had returned to the Yard in June 1919, still shaken by the war, still finding his feet in this very different world of civilian life after 4 appalling years in the trenches, only half-healed physically and mentally. And Chief Superintendent Bowles, Markham's predecessor, had sent him first to Warwickshire and then to Cornwall, 2 very difficult inquiries that had drained him emotionally. He had had to deal with a drunken, shell-shocked ex-soldier in Warwickshire, the only witness to the murder of an officer on leave, and in Cornwall he had come face to face with the secret life of Olivia Marlowe. He hadn't known then who she was, but her war poetry under the pseudonym of O.A. Manning was still so vivid in his memory that it had been something of a shock to realize she was dead. He had found it hard to put that case behind him too. Bowles, he was certain, had deliberately sent him to investigate both murders, knowing somehow that it would be a test of his ability to return to the Yard. Less than 2 years ago, that was, and yet it seemed like yesterday to him. He had promised himself he would never cross the Tamar into Cornwall again. He tried to tell himself that Padstow was not particularly close to the Marlowe house, and besides, he'd heard that no one lived there now. It had been closed up. It was cold comfort as he put his valise in the boot of his motor car, shut the door to his flat, and set out for the West Country. It was a long journey. He spent the night near Plymouth, tired still from his drive back from Derby, but that night, as he tried to sleep, Hamish kept him awake. Hamish MacLeod, the young Scot he'd been forced to execute in the summer of 1916 for directly refusing an order. A God-bereft night, well into the battle on the Somme, the Germans bombarding the British lines, and then the British guns returning fire. In the end, they'd caught their own lines in the barrage, killing what remained of Rutledge's company and nearly killing him as well. He'd been left with the shock of shooting one of his own men, left with the knowledge that the rest had died in a futile attempt to take out the machine-gun nest before the order to attack at dawn. Hamish had told him over and over again how hopeless it was, but he couldn't listen. He couldn't disobey his orders. One company against the lives of hundreds of others. It was war, military necessity. And so he had persevered, aware of the cost, aware of the waste, aware of the insanity, and only too aware that he was unable to do anything to stop any of it. He hadn't dealt well with Corporal Hamish MacLeod's death. Shell-shocked and too long in the line himself, he'd barely kept his own head through that horrendous summer, and the voice of the young Scot had taken up residence in his mind like a living man, dead though he was. Rutledge's punishment for leading so many over the top and watching them die. The merciless demands of rank and the pounding day and night of the guns had taken their toll. His measure of guilt for surviving when neither Hamish nor his men could. He'd brought the voice home from France with him, wishing he could have brought the living man and so be free, but there was no freedom after all.